Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm MoistPenguin and welcome back to the channel. Today I got a little bit of a D&D, a little bit of a moral quandary story for you as to what is good and evil. Now, in D&D, good and evil are actually kind of defined in all kinds of stuff. They have the Book of Vile Darkness, which gives you all kinds of different evil deeds that occur and stuff like that. They have the Book of Exalted Deeds, which tells you everything that you need to be good and all that right there. It's all that, and even some people have like alignment codes that say this can do this, this is what this does that. But the main thing that I'll be going on here is what my players did that caused them to turn evil. And then all three of them kind of argued it, but two of them were like, okay, I can see why it's evil, but the other one was still arguing as to why it was not an evil deed. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of backstory to this first because it requires a little bit and it gets a little story for you guys. So, in my campaign right now, we are a fantasy sci-fi. That's the genre we're working with right now. Started off as fantasy, then it turned a little bit of sci-fi in there. We've got all kinds of crap mixed in. But, so one of the players has a kind of, I don't know if it'd really be a company or anything like that, but it's on the main planet that I had. Sorry, I think I'm getting a little sick, but it's on the main planet that we've been working with for a while now, and it was basically a robot factory. I think I'm not really sure what he was wanting to do with it. He was very wishy-washy with what he was going to be doing with it, whether it was going to be a mercenary company or whether they were going to go build things or just be an assassination group. I'm not sure what it was trying to be, but he wanted to build vast armies of robots, and I had given them this pretty broken ability. It's actually very broken. There's nothing kind of. It's extraordinarily broken, but I gave it to a player who actually didn't do very bad with it. He was very he was restrained in what he did. So I was very impressed by the way he handled it, but he did give some broken things out. Like he gave my friend a machine that so long as it had the material, it would build things constantly. And so he'd been building these robots that would work for him and do things. And so they were about to set off to another planet. And so before he left, his last order that he gave to them was gather materials to build more robots. So, he left. And then they got stranded on this planet. And it was stranded in the way that you couldn't plane shift in, couldn't plane shift out, you couldn't teleport in or out. If a ship flew into orbit, there was a chance that it was going to be destroyed. If someone built the ship somehow on the planet and tried to fly out, there was another chance that it would also be destroyed. And this happened very often. So, they are there for 3 months or so. 3 months or so, give or take. But what they didn't know was that one of them had stepped on a plate somewhere. And this was like a 10% chance of happening, and it just happened. So, they stepped on the plate, they caused the planar lock to hit and all that right there. They couldn't leave. So, they were trying to they had encountered this guy called Kraus, and he was this very eldritch kind of smoke being. At first, when they first met him, he was this eldritch smoke being, and he was very cocky, you're not going to beat me, I am the best there ever was, all that right there. So they ended up, two of the party members ended up finding him, and the others had to leave. So they didn't really get to do anything with it. And one of them just kind of stood there and watched while the other party member fought. They got him down very low, and I did the whole, my minions, fight him, I'm going to run. And he did. And I made the encounter entirely at first because one of the players was like, hey, can we do a dungeon crawl today? I haven't done one of those. And I wasn't prepared, so I'd made a really crappy dungeon. It was very, very horribly laid out and all that. I didn't have any preparation for the dungeon at all. It was just kind of, yeah, there's a door over there. You can go in there and find some books. There's a bedroom over there. Ah, There's a bathroom too. It was a crappy dungeon, and I was like, I didn't have time to plan it out. But one of the players was like, I don't really like dungeons. And this was later in like our group chat we have for that. It was later. They were like, I don't really like dungeons. Can we like make a harder one? I would like a hard dungeon, something that really challenged me. So I sat down and like the whole week that I only play like once a week. So like the whole week before the next game came up, I was designing this dungeon for them. And it was 3 layers, but each one had several rooms and little places you can go into. There were traps everywhere. There were some monster NPCs. There was at least one boss on each level that they had to get through. They didn't have to get through them. One of them was completely optional. They just happened to find him, and he disintegrated one player, killed another. They did eventually kill him, and because they're high level, they had like resurrective abilities, so no one actually died. Oh gosh. But as I kept going down through, some of the players were like, I don't really like this place. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I wasn't going to force them down in there. No, I'm not like that. I'm not going to railroad them into the dungeon. So they left. They decided they didn't want anything to do with this anymore, so they left. The rest of the party were down there. Now, I had originally designed this for the full party because, again, I wanted it to be challenging. I wanted them to work together because they do a lot of infighting. They don't work well together, and I wanted to try to make something that could help them pull the group together, really work together on this dungeon, because if they didn't, I designed it to where if they did not work together, they would die. And that was the important part of it. But as we were doing it, it came clear to me to see that some of these other party members were not going to join this. They did not want anything to do with it. They didn't want to do that at all. They were absolutely adamant on not doing that dungeon. And they've been with the character for a long time, so I didn't want to just be like, okay, if you don't go down there, your character is dead. I didn't want to do that. So I started scaling down some of the obstacles and stuff like that for the 2 or 3 people who were still there. And of course, they had some NPCs with them. I think they had like 1 or 2 other NPCs with them. So I was like, I can scale it down, work it to where these guys are mixed into the obstacles and stuff, and it'll be fine. Well, anyways, what happens is on the planet, whenever the lock was set, they were there for a long time. There was, what was it, like 3 months or so again. So while they were there, they didn't realize it, but there was a temporal kind of thing on the planet wherein time was moving at a slower pace than it was everywhere else. So outside of that planet, the whole time they were there was like it was like 10 or 20 years outside on that other planet. So whenever they came back to the planet, oh no, it was, well, okay, one of the players came in because he had died. He came in and I was like, yeah, sure, here, I'll give you a ship. Go find these people. They've been gone for like 10 years. So he goes out and he goes to the planet. He makes a successful piloting check to get onto the planet. He lands, makes a successful piloting check. He lands on the planet, finds my friend. They get in there and they just kind of, they kind of meet together. And eventually, like, he had planned to save this little village, but he was like, nah, there's a way off the planet. I'm just going to go. Not going to lie. Kind of irked me a little bit. Just, he had been talking for like weeks that he was going to save this village from these raider guys because they were like dirt poor. They had like if you could even call them in adobe huts. They had no money. They were growing things specifically to give to the other guys, and they got to keep just a little bit. Everybody was emaciated. Most of them were living. It was absolutely awful. And he was like, this is gonna be my good deed for the next century, because he's technically immortal. But and he was just very like that. I'm gonna save these guys. They're gonna be good. And then, like, the moment opportunity arose, he left. And I was very like, man, you just abandoned those guys to die, didn't you? Dang. So, anyways, he gets back on the planet that he was at, and it's this barren wasteland. There are There's hardly any trees. The land itself is kind of deserty or just not really good soil. And there are battle scars all over because there was another group of people on the planet who were kind of advanced called Worldgate, and they were on the other side of the forest. But whenever these robots started coming through, taking up all the resources, mining constantly, making more and more robots at a high rate, they got, afraid. They were afraid, and the people from the main town, Gravendale, had taken a message over to them saying, "Hey, these guys are causing problems. What do we do? We can't beat them. Their armor is too thick. Can you guys help us? We know that you're more advanced than we are. Could you help us? Maybe give us some of your technology, or maybe come help us fight them yourselves." And so they did give them some tech, and they did come and help themselves because this is a problem. They can't just continue to do this, but they did. And like this big war waged out. Most of the planet was scarred. There was still like another half of it that was like perfectly fine, but most of it was scarred from the battle that had ensued. And then got during in like the back half of it, they met a lot of the characters that they had before. They were these broken people. Parts of them were replaced with robotics. They were grayed, older, just very done with everything that was on this planet. And so, whenever the player character who had built the place, there was three of them there. Three of the player characters had made it there. But one of the characters who built the place went back to where his company was. It was in rubble. There was not a lot left that was working and functioning. He was trying to rebuild some of the stuff that he could get, just a very basic small operations on. And so what it ended up happening was some of Worldgate's troops came along in some mechs, kind of like walker mechs. They just came along in little walker mechs, no bigger than an ATST, maybe a little smaller but a little bulkier. And so they had went into stealth, hidden, and whenever the soldiers had started searching around, moving through the rubble and whatnot, one of them had thrown an explosive device at the soldiers. It blew up, and they were he was trying to figure out what was it? Oh yeah, he went up to them and asked like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And they're like, "We're scavenging tech." And they're like, "This is my tech. This is not yours. This is mine." And they're like, "We don't see your name on it. This is Worldgate's now." And so he blows them up. They barely survive that. He blows them up though, and then he decides that he's going to leave this place forever. Before he does that though, and the other two players were in agreement with this. They went to one of the other ships, and it had this drive core that if it exploded, it would take out the planet. And he is talking to his AI about it because he had already planned to do this. Apparently, he was like, "Hey," he has this little AI called Oars, and he was talking to it, and he says, "Hey, if I use the drive core on this ship, can I blow up the planet with that?" And the AI says, "Yes, you can. If you set this to overload to its maximum capacity, it will destroy the planet." And he says this to the other players. He's like, "Hey, we're going to overload the drive core and we're going to blow up the planet." And so they're both in agreement, like, "Yeah, sure." The other character's kind of like, whatever. I don't really care. And they go over there, and then he goes, "Okay, set it for like 10 minutes so we can leave." But the other characters were like, "We want to press a button to do this. Come on, let's do that. Let's press a button." And so the AI projects a holographic image of two buttons, and there was a little bit of a thing like, "Hey, yeah, if you don't press the button, we're not doing anything." Trying to convince them that the button was indeed a driving factor in starting up the bomb for this planet. So they both willingly press the buttons, and then they get out of there. Now, this is where the moral quandary was set. They actually blew up the planet. There was 4.8 plus billion people left alive on that planet, and they killed all of them. This was a mass genocide. They had murdered everybody on that planet. Now, granted, some of them were bad people, but they still murdered them. Now, if they had murdered just like 10 people, I wouldn't have done what I did to their alignment. I shifted their alignment to evil when they did this. Because, again, they just killed like 4.8 billion people. That's a lot of people to just murder all at once for no apparent reason. They did not have a reason to kill them. Now, later, one of them is a Krogan. And like his argument was, well, I don't know, there could have been the genophage on that planet. I couldn't let that live. But, and he agreed with me. I said, in all your travels throughout this universe, you haven't found another Krogan. You haven't found the genophage on anything else. So you have no reason to believe that the genophage is on the planet. He was like, okay, I see your point. I'll shift my alignment over. The other character, he was just kind of, meh, whatever. I don't care. I'll be evil. And the other one was adamantly arguing that murder was not evil act because I did it for myself. And I said, what do you mean you did it for yourself? That's a lot of people to kill just for yourself. And he says that he did it because he knew that if we did not press the button, that we weren't going to get out of there. And I said, I mean, it's still mass murder, though. That doesn't make it right. But I'm chaotic neutral, so it's not evil. It is still evil. Again, this is where we get into that. And we got into this big argument over that. And eventually, I was still trying to argue within the game mechanics of the system, within D&D's alignment system of what makes it neutral, evil, and good, chaotic, lawful, whatever. That doesn't matter to me. I'm still working on the evil and good natures of this and the neutral nature of it. He started bringing it into the real world and all that. Well, it's just evil and good is just a construct of our systems and how to make us not steal and kill from each other and stuff like that. And I guess when he started doing that, we started getting into all these other debates and stuff, and I finally just got frustrated and just stopped talking. And I was like, okay, whatever, dude, just whatever. I'm gonna go to these guys. They're trying to do things and stuff like that, because I guess I did kind of get this little thing going. He was but one of the other players who was on the other planet, before this one, he was trying to find a way to restore the exploded planet because he had found a way over there, and he's like, the planet's gone. What the heck happened here? So he contacts some deities. They're like, oh yeah, if you do this and this and this, here's what happened here. So he gets in contact with Bahamut, and Bahamut says that if you kill the ones who destroyed the planet, I will restore this planet. And so he set out on a quest to find them. Eventually does. He kills the one who I'm currently arguing with about it, and the other one too. And he's working on the other character who is the actual, hey, do the thing, blow the planet up. So, but yeah, we're arguing about this right here, and I decided to just stop talking to them. I'm gonna go over here and work with them. He left before we could continue it. I'm kind of glad, but again, that begs like the thing that I have the thing with here is like good and evil. What is good and evil? I personally believe we have good and evil because we need good and evil. We need to have those concepts. We need to be able to determine what's good, what is bad. An evil act. An evil act would include things like murder, stealing from someone else who needs that, and you don't, but you want it. That's an evil act, I would think. Taking mass amounts of lives. That's evil. And we had gotten into some heavy stuff, and this guy, he's very I don't know how to say it. It's really, really weird the way he is. He believes adamantly that the Holocaust was a huge exaggeration, that most of the people who survived it were either coerced into the stories they told or lied about it. That's when it really started getting heated. Whenever he started talking, when we started talking like that, and I was getting kind of angry with that. It's like you really telling these people that they're liars and that they didn't actually survive all these horrible things that they did. It was getting really bad like that, and we started talking about it. And based on the way he is talking. This is not my belief, not at all. The way he was talking about it was that Hitler did what he did to save his country, to bring his country back into a golden age, to make it better, and all that right there. And therefore, it was not morally reprehensible what he did. Because he did it for his country, that would make him chaotic neutral, there to save everything that he had. Now, I would think, this is just me, but that is an evil act. The amount of people that he killed, that he sentenced to death, that is an evil act in my book. And I kept trying to tell him that that's not how that works. That's evil. That is considered an evil act. Not only in the D&D universe with the mechanics of alignment, but also in our world, where we have morals that we use to keep our society working. Because if we don't have those morals, society falls apart. If we can't work together, if we can't trust each other to not kill, steal, and all that right there, society doesn't work properly because we can't keep that trust. And we do kind of have that trust still, even though it's a little on ice with how we are to each other. We rape each other quite a lot, and we kill each other quite a lot, But we still have a system that kind of works. It's not perfect, it has flaws, but it kind of works, and it keeps society moving. It keeps us from not dying out. Because if we didn't have all of these, if humans could not work together and come together and not have these ideals and have this society, we would not work. We would have died out a long time ago because humans have to work together to survive. Oh my gosh, I need a drink. But, and that's what we're talking about, good and evil. What's good, what's bad, what's evil. And that's how it was. Again, I do not support his Hitler thing. That is like, no. I am fairly in the thing that he's an evil guy. And then he was talking about the way I'm thinking, like, if you murder mass amounts of people, you're considered evil. And then he was like, well, then every king, queen, ruler in history is evil. And I said, no, they're not all evil. In fact, some of them are considered good because of what they did. And it's not always evil act, because it's like working on defense. It's like you're defending your country from an invading attacker. If you kill a lot of them, that you did that in defense. You didn't do that because you had to. You didn't do it because you wanted to. You did it because you had to. You had to kill them. They were attacking you. If you did not, they would kill you. They killed 4 billion helpless people. There was no way they could have stopped it. They didn't know what was happening. There was nothing they could do. They killed them. It was evil, downright. And he continued to argue with me. Oh my gosh, I have been going on for a while now. Jesus. But this really did rile me up though. Like we were in heavy debate about it, and it really got me. I was very. We were very heated at the end of this, and he was still like, whenever I walked away, I went to them. He was still trying to argue with me, and I was like, no, go away. I'm trying to do their turn. Please stop. Like that. He was very, and he does this a lot. This guy argues with everybody about stuff all the time. And it's not because he's a troll or anything like that. No, this is how he actually is. He actually has to argue with people. He has to be right. His standpoint has to be the right one. And that's how he believes. It's just not how it works though, because and I don't want to be like that guy, like everything he says is stupid and is not right. Because he does make valid points sometimes. It's just that a lot of times he ends up making points about things, but he doesn't use the right facts. He doesn't use the facts right, or he presents them in a way that they don't seem right. And again, I could really like the guy, but with the way he stands on, the death incarnate guy, I've been slowly kind of leaning away from him in that regard. I'm seeing in different lights, and I'm like, this guy's not that cool anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have to say about this. Good and evil. It's bad to kill people, especially a lot. This is a big ramble episode. Like dang, this is like almost 30 minutes of rambling here. I'm sure you guys totally wanted to hear all that, but I'm glad that you did hear it. And if you made it this far in the episode, thank you for listening. Like, really, thank you. Like, that means a lot to me that you actually stayed enough to listen to all this, and I really want to thank you for that. And it's been a good ride with this episode so far, and I want to thank you again. Again, thank you. It's just I can't stop saying thank you because it's nice to have you here watching with me. And now we are all out of time now that I have wasted all of that time. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked it, please leave a like and a comment down below. Be sure to tell me what your thoughts on what is evil and what is good are. And if you would, tell me some stories. If you play D&D, tell me some stories. You know, tell me what your guys' experiences have been so far. Have you guys had any debates in your campaign and your groups about what is considered a good and evil act? You know, tell me a little bit. You know, give me a story. It'd be awesome. I would love to read it. Send it to me in a message or comment it. It doesn't matter. I would love to read it, and I would love to read stuff from you guys. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Shit.